Hello and welcome to a cover story conversation. Today, actually, we are in for a very unusual conversation. Joining me is Arundhati Ghosh. She's an author, she's a social activist, and she's also a poet. But today, she's out with a book, All Our Loves Journeys with Polyamory in India. So, welcome, Arundhati, and what a lovely topic. I think it's a topic that must have raised quite a few eyebrows.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Priya, for having me. Yeah.
Could I first, to begin with, I mean, let's just dive right in because,
Yeah.
in this book, you actually argue that it is possible for, I mean, everybody, I agree, you're not really in love with one person at a time, but you're saying it's possible to actually explore that relationship, to be in love with several people at the same time. And so long as, from your point of view, there is an emotional connect, it doesn't have to be a physical connect, but definitely the emotional connect is essential. Now, how do you put this in context with the world we live in?
See, the way I define polyamory, and that's also the beauty of it, that people can define polyamory the way they want to in their context of a relationship. And the way I and many others define it is the desire, ability, as well as the practice of being in love with more than one person at a time, with or without sexual intimacies, but with the consent of all. Now, I choose the three words desire, ability, and practice very, very consciously because it's not possible to be a polyamorous person just with having one. I guess desire everybody has.
Right.
Ability comes also from privileges, etc., that you have socially and otherwise. But the practice is the actual test of whether you want to live like that. And you know what also happens is in a world that is mostly monogamous, monoamorous, and that puts not just an ethical but also a moral bind around the fact that you have to have not just one love at a time, but there is one true love for everybody. And the whole journey is towards that. Polyamory breaks all those structures and proposes a different kind of way of being that survives with these multiple loves at the same time.
Okay, see, the way it is possible to love more than one person at a time, but then that is also why we have, for instance, divorce. My point is loving too many people at the same time and acting on it, as you said, the practice
Yeah.
is what makes, in terms of these are rules that are put in place for a certain civilizational norm also. Otherwise, what will make you different from, say, animals?
Well, what will make us different from animals is a question we can ask about many other things that include
I am
hatred,
not arguing with
violence,
that.
etc.
Yes.
Yeah. But let me just speak about the rules that you talk about. Yes, of course, monogamy is based on rules, and those rules are guided by patriarchy, by capitalism, by a lot of colonial influence on our cultures. Because if you, the book also has a chapter on that. I went around trying to figure out what are the non-monogamous societies did we ever have, and I found tons of them, most of whom changed the way they were
Give an
post
example.
colonization, post in Africa there are lots of communities that believed in a very different structure of families where there were multiple men, multiple women in the scheme of things, where for example there are communities where when a child is born, the person that the mother is with at that time is not the only father. The all the people that the mother has had relationships of love and sex with in the previous couple of years are also co-fathers of the child. Now these are
This
things
is
when
like
we
a
hear
commune.
about it,
We'll
we are like, oh my God, what is this? But these were practices which are very much there. Now, what colonization did to many of these cultures is with Christianity as well, with Christianity's monotheism, one godness,
Correct.
and that anything outside of this one godness is disloyalty of a sort, was transferred into the lives of men and women, saying that therefore you need to have just one partner. That was one part of it. But patriarchy also benefits from it, no? Because it immediately puts a control over women's bodies and what women can do with their bodies. If you see, before we had private property, before the idea of private property was there and the question of inheritance was there, we really didn't need to know who was whose child. Kids would grow up within communities together as community children. But the moment you have private property and you have to then pass it on, you need to know whether that person comes from you.
Correct.
And therefore the the constraint on who women can have sex with, and and who their wombs can have the seed of, so to say. So many of these rules are not necessarily for civilization, but for the benefit of certain kinds of ideologies and structures that include patriarchy, capitalism, colonization, all of that. If one takes all that out, one will see that there are possibilities of many different kinds of families. Queer families, for example, today, post feminism, post the queer movement, queer families are showing us that you can have two mothers and a child, you can have two fathers and a child, which was unthinking before, right? One wouldn't think of these possibilities. So I'm just proposing that parallelly to having monogamous families, you can also have structures where there are multiple people in love with each other. But polyamory is also as much about love as about many, because there are two words. Correct. And it is about building, sustaining relationships over a period of time. It is about dedication, fidelity, care, compassion, and wanting to build lives together with these people. Also, when you say, I would say more than one, because it's not like, given the limited amount of time, etc., that we have, I'm not suggesting that any polyamorous person will immediately have like hazaro. ख्वाहिशें हो सकती है, but not necessarily partners. There's no time, given how we live. It's just the possibility of more than one. And the
No, I'm with
practice
you
of more
on the
than one.
possibility. I'm with you on the fact that yes, you can be in love with one person and also, find something attractive or some god or some, find something to love in another person, find love with another person. But that is where, loyalty comes in. Aren't you really, really debasing loyalty on this? Because when you enter into any relationship, it's a contract. I'm not even
Yeah.
saying marriage.
Yeah.
So you expect something from the other. Like you
Yeah.
talk about a relationship with Siddharth and Mandeep
Yeah.
in your book,
Yeah.
where I think Siddharth has moved on and Mandeep hasn't.
He is moving.
He is, but
He is moving. He's still in the relationship. He's accepted Siddharth's, and he wants to. So yeah, there are
so
all
look
those.
at we're looking from Siddharth's point of view. I'm looking from Mandeep's point of view.
Yeah, but Mandeep does have the choice to not be in the relationship. The reason, so let's
Yeah.
not discuss Mandeep and Siddharth particularly, because it's a long relationship, and it's an 8-year relationship. It's going through its ups and downs. Let's talk about the very important thing that you raised, which is terms of contract or terms of engagement in a relationship.
Right.
In a monogamous world, your terms of engagement is, when you say loyalty and fidelity, you basically put a list of things you will not do with other people. That's how I used to look at it. And I used to find it very funny that so little is said about what you will do with the person. You put together a list of things that you will not do with other people, which is, you will not get emotionally involved, or you will not have physical relationships. You may not travel alone. You may not, whatever two people feel they're comfortable with. There is a list of things. I think there is a terms of contract in polyamory as well, where you do put down your boundaries of what you will or will not do outside of the relationship. But what is more important, and where fidelity and loyalty counts, is what you will be for each other. So, for example, loyalty in a polyamorous relationship would be that I will be there for you when you need XYZ, which is, you need medical attention, you need whatever. The terms of the contract in polyamory allows each member in the polyamory who are living that life to be able to be open to explore other possibilities. And that's why honesty is so important. So it is not cheating. And what happens in a monogamous relationship, if you do fall in love with another person, you have really, and I've led that life, so I know, you have two options left for you. One, you have to choose between the two. And you tell yourself that at this point of time, this is what's making most sense for me, and you choose.
Right.
So you end one. Even when you love two people, you end one. Or you cheat. So these are the only two options left for you. What polyamory does, or what lives in polyamory allows us to, is to explore both with the consent and with open honesty of all the partners. You can't do it by hiding.
Right.
You can't do it undercover. And there is going to be a discussion around it. Like, now coming back to Siddharth and Mandeep,
Let's
there's
just
so
give
much
our
discussion.
viewers a background of the Siddharth and Mandeep case first before we discuss it.
Yeah. So Siddharth and Mandeep had been together, are now as well together for more than 8 years. And Siddharth is he works with landscapes. Mandeep is a dancer, choreographer. They're both based in Delhi actually, and wonderful, wonderful people. And if your viewers must go and see Mandeep's show, he's incredible choreographer. So and initially they had an open relationship because both had gone through the completely monogamous relationships earlier and been very unhappy.
All right.
So they had an open relationship, but they did not engage, so which meant for them, that definition meant they engaged sexually with others, but they didn't get into deeper bonds of emotion. And slowly, Siddharth realized that he is an open person and he wants to develop relationship. He falls in love with other people. Mandeep said he just didn't have the time and the bandwidth to create relationships and move on. Initially, when Siddharth fell in love with other people, given their context, Mandeep was upset. He did not accept it, and
But hadn't he agreed to that in the outset?
no, yes, even if you're agreed to something, when it emotionally hits you, you suddenly realize how difficult it is. And you may say, hello, I thought I could take it, but hey, I can't. So initially that's what happened. And very amazingly, Siddharth felt that at that time, his relationship with Mandeep was very important. So he let go of that love. However, so when I was doing this interview with them, which was so beautiful, really beautiful, what happened is they had come to a point where now Mandeep also saw the possibility. He realized that Siddharth is a kind of person who will always be dildar and dilkhol, and
Dil
he
phek.
will have dil phek, and he will have relationships outside. And Mandeep also started wondering that, well, should I also, how am I feeling about all of this? So they are at that very beautiful juncture where Siddharth has another relationship with this other person that he talks about. It's an emotional relationship. They still consider each other primary partners because that also happens. There are different kinds of polyamories. You might have a primary partner and others become your secondaries, or there can be people who do not believe in these hierarchies and may have 2 or 3 partners who have equal share of their lives, more or less equal share of their lives. And these are determined again, by the people involved. And I really would encourage, your viewers to read Mandeep and Siddharth's story, because unlike some of the other interviews in the book, other stories in the book, this is at a juncture. It's at an intersection, and there are possibilities of where this relationship could go. And I often worry about people I have interviewed and have talked to so many, that they overcome the bumps and hurdles that come in their relationship because they're just exploring a different and new way of being. And maybe some of the answers to love being hard, any kind of love being hard, Priya, no matter if we love men, women, or we love one or many, love is difficult business. It hurts us, it leaves us lonely, it wounds us. Some of the answers to the issues, problems, hurdles that we have in all our love lives, maybe some of those solutions could come out of living lives differently. Maybe.
Okay. Maybe.
So,
On that poignant note, I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and explore what exactly, where this maybe is going to lead us. So take a quick break. Stay with us.
yes.
Hello and welcome back to a cover story conversation. We are in conversation with ARUNDHATI Ghosh and we're talking about her book, All Our Loves, Journey with Polyamory in India. And yes, I heard you arguing for the case, and I'm still not 100% convinced that this is the kind of world I would really like to live in. Couple of things. One is, of course, yes, you may get into a relationship where, as you said, both the couples will consent to polyamory, but the timing is always off. One person will explore more, may fall in love with somebody else. We're talking not about flings, but emotional attachments.
yes.
So there is no timing to that. There is no, simultaneous timing. So someone will get hurt, even if it's open and it's, as you explore in a relationship in in the book. My second point is, where is the stability coming? Because when we get into relationships, back of our mind is, this is where I'm headed. This is who I'm going to spend my old age with. This is where, we're going to have kids together. We are, this is it. So how does that kind of rocks that world, doesn't it?
Thanks, Priya, for asking that question, because that's a question polyamorous people get asked all the time.
Okay.
To begin with, the thing is, I must make it clear that this book and where I come from, I don't come from a point of view of considering monogamy or monogamous lives any less at all. I have deep respect, love, and for any people in love, because as I said, love is difficult business, and if anybody has the courage to love and be in a relationship, hats off to all of those people. Also, I want to emphasize that I do not think polyamory is any easier, better, cooler, or more progressive. No matter what other people might say, that's not where I come from. Where I come from is that it is a valid, ethical, alternative space to be to live next to people who want to be monoamorous, and there are people who want to be polyamorous, exactly the way the queer world wants to sit next to a heteronormative world. It's not saying that heteronormative people should suddenly become queer. My logic is also not that people who believe in monogamy, who are monoamorous, should suddenly become polyamorous. The only argument I'm making is that this is a valid, ethical life choice or being to have. Having said that, you talked about people feeling hurt, right? I mean, and what about stability?
Right.
Now, the first thing is that stability can mean very different things to different people. For example, because I'm single, I'm not married, my mother, who's 80, gets asked all the time by her friends, Ki, when will your daughter settle?
Correct.
Now, a friend of hers said something very cheeky. She got very irritated with people asking my mother, and my mother not being able to quite answer. So her friend said, well, only dust settles. So
Nice answer. I must remember that.
It's like,
Yeah.
and the thing is that what is stability might be very different for different people. And we all seek stability in our own lives in different ways. Some of us don't like stability either. Having said that, polyamorous lives have their own stability. There are couples within polyamorous lives who are primary partners of each other, who are married, who have kids, who have committed to be with each other and grow old together. But they're also in commitments of growing together, old together with other people as well. It does not have to be exclusive. I think what polyamorous people are saying is that exclusivity is not important to them or to their way of living.
Okay.
They want some of the things that monoamorous people want. Some of them may not even want that. For example, if you ask me, and that's only about me, it's not about polyamorous people, I never wanted kids. I never wanted, because I always wanted to travel a lot and
Right.
write and be in different places all the time. And I realized no matter how much I love kids, that's not the life I could have. So instead, I became the next best thing, which is be a godmother to, your favorite aunt to the kids that you love of your friends, right? But that was my choice. Now, somebody else might want to have kids in a polyamorous relationship and will find a way of doing that. And I know in the community there are lots of people who are married with kids. It's much more difficult for them to come out because today, given the world that we live in, these taboos can be very dangerous for even the safety of the children. And a very important question then also comes up is, when are they going to come out to their children? As queer parents also often face that there is a moment that, because the children grew up in a very heteronormative, monogamous kind of world,
Yeah.
right?
There are silos on that.
There are silos.
Yeah.
And at some point, they will have to come out. They will have to say that, hey, this is our life, this is who we are. But those kind of coming outs have been in our lives forever. For example, children who are adopted, parents have to tell them the truth at some point. And each of those tellings, each of those coming out will have its own share of hurt, maybe even sense of betrayal. But parents and kids will deal with it, I think, and they will form bonds that will be able to sustain the little bit of turmoil that they have to, go through.
But there is also a legal angle which we
Yes.
have. You
Yes.
do talk about it in your
Yes.
book.
Yes.
Where you also mentioned quite correctly that adultery was a crime until
Yes.
2018.
Yes.
And however you put it, it is still an affair, and that can come up in court as grounds for divorce. So these are still mindsets that think that need to be. So. So, would you suggest keeping the legal point in mind, these terms of engagement when you are engaging, should those be part of your whatever? We don't do prenups in India, but some kind of
Yeah,
a
we should
contract.
maybe. Um, See, it depends, like so when I realized while writing the book that as a polyamorous person, I never thought of the legal side. Never. And
That's
the
because you're young.
I'm not that young. But really you don't think of it in the sense that, where does it lead us, etc. But I spoke to other polyamorous people and they said, Arey, yeah, we haven't really thought about it. So I decided to talk to two lawyers,
Okay.
and the book has two long conversations with lawyers because I didn't even know where to begin, like what to ask, how to get around it. The more I thought, the more entangled I got in the current frameworks. And what I realized talking to both of them, and very rightly, one of them, Arvind Narayan, who's been a lawyer, who's also been at the forefront of the queer movement in the country. He's based in Bangalore. Said something very interesting that, it's not a question of have this law, have that law, change this, change that. ऐसे नहीं होगा. Because the entire legal system, the way it governs relationships, marriages, etc. in India, are based on two pillars. One is heteronormative, which is the reason the marriage equality entire movement that happened right now has got struck down, and the movement continues for marriage equality laws to come for queer people. So it's heteronormative, that a marriage can happen only between a man and a woman. And the second thing is that it is based on monogamy, that except for personal laws like Muslim laws, etc., it is based on monogamy. So both heteronormativity and monogamy are at the core, like they are the roots around which the entire legal system is framed. So if you are going to question it through the lens of polyamory, you'll have to sort of uproot this whole thing.
Right.
So, what the lawyers are talking about is that it will be a slow process. You will also have to, we as a community will have to think of how much really do you want the law to come in. And that's why, slightly cheekily, I call that chapter State's Carrot and State's Stick. Because when the state enters your life, it gives you protection, but it
Right.
also interferes. So, it's the weighing of both.
The options.
Yeah.
But in term now, there is also when you live in, we don't just live in a relationship, you live in the society.
Of course,
So,
of course.
how has that happened when your book, for instance, how has that been taken by people? What are the reactions that you're getting?
Yeah, thanks for asking me that, Priya, because I have been very overwhelmed actually. I knew that obviously the polyamorous world will accept and embrace it.
Yeah.
Even the queer world, to an extent, I felt that obviously it's something that has been discussed. I wondered how will the larger part of society, as you say, which is the monogamous, monoamorous, heteronormative world, look at the book. And what has surprised me pleasantly, and in some cases really, really impressed me, are the questions that people are asking. I've done so many book events now in Bangalore, Bombay, Pune, Delhi. And the questions sometimes that I get from the monogamous world are the most insightful, are the most difficult to respond to, are you realize people are thinking through their lives. And so, one of the best compliments I got is somebody who said, "Thank you so much for writing the book. I'm suitably confused." As I should be, because I wasn't asking questions about my life. Another person asked me, and this was also quite beautiful, that you have a chapter on how kids feel, how young people are exploring life, and how they should talk to their parents. But how do you think parents should talk to children, grown up children? Because what if I realize at a older age that I am not who I am in terms of my gender, sexuality, or even way of love, which is I'm not monogamous. How do I have that conversation? You should have. He said that's something that's not in your book, and I was like, oh God, I didn't even think about this. And these are questions coming to me from monogamous people leading happy couple lives for a long time.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, these are critical conversations, and I think that your book has really stirred a narrative that I think let's see how it goes taking forward. But it is something, as you said, a lot of people, maybe in their subconscious, people are thinking about it. Now we are going to be talking about it. So I think your book has done a big step on that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Priya. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. That's all for now. Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.